Okay, so you've probably heard it. It's this simple phrase that's suddenly everywhere, 6, 7. But, behind this viral trend, there's a really fascinating story. It's one that connects modern memes to some pretty ancient spirituality. So today, we're going to unpack its surprising origins and a specific Catholic caution about its hidden meanings.
I mean, you've definitely heard it. Maybe your kids are yelling it, or maybe you've just seen it plastered all over your social media feeds. It feels like it just appeared out of thin air, doesn't it? So what is the actual story behind this viral catchphrase?
And okay, this is where the story gets really interesting. Because on one hand, it's so easy to just write this off as, another silly internet thing that'll be gone in a week. But on the other hand, some folks are sensing there's something much, much deeper going on here. An ancient story that's tied to these exact numbers. So let's take a look at both sides.
All right, first things first. Let's get the simple explanation out of the way. Where did this phrase even come from in the first place?
Well, the immediate origin story is pretty straightforward. It popped up in a rap track, and then, like so many things do these days, it got snatched up by TikTok. And from there, whoosh, it just exploded. It became a sound, a challenge, a shout-out, the whole viral phenomenon.
And listen, this is a really crucial point for this part of the story. For almost everyone using the phrase, there's no hidden agenda. It's just fun. It's nonsense. It's a way to be in on the joke. The intent isn't spiritual at all. But the fact that it was these specific numbers that went viral, well, that's what makes this whole thing so fascinating.
So now, let's get to the unexpected twist. Because it turns out, these numbers, they aren't random at all. Nope. They carry some serious spiritual weight that goes back, well, for centuries.
Okay, to really understand that meaning, we need to quickly talk about something called Santería. So, what is it? It's a religion with deep roots in West African Yoruba traditions that over time blended with Catholic imagery, especially in the Caribbean. And a really key part of Santería is this belief in spiritual beings called orishas. And, you guessed it, numbers are a big way to represent and connect with them.
And the connections here are, wow, they're incredibly specific. In Santería, the number 6 is directly linked to an Orisha named Oshun. She's all about love, beauty, and rivers. Then you've got the number 7, which is linked to Yemaya, the powerful Orisha of the sea and motherhood. And these aren't just like vague symbols. No, this is core to the faith.
Right, and it goes way beyond just symbolism. These numbers are actively used in religious practice. I mean, they're considered sacred. Practitioners might use, say, 6 candles for Oshun, or maybe 7 shells for Yemaya in their rituals. The numbers themselves actually become part of the spiritual act. It's a way to invoke these forces.
Okay, so let's recap. We've got this viral meme on one side, and this really deep spiritual history on the other. Now let's connect those dots from the specific Catholic viewpoint that our source material focuses on.
And this really is the key question, isn't it? If most kids don't mean anything by it, why should this coincidence even matter? Why would a Catholic perspective suggest we should be cautious here? Well, the reasoning all comes down to some really fundamental principles about worship and, spiritual boundaries.
So, this caution is rooted in some core Catholic beliefs. The idea is pretty simple. In Catholicism, all worship goes to God and God alone. Every grace, all divine help is understood to come through Jesus Christ. And even the saints, they're seen as intercessors. They bring our prayers to God, but they're not sources of power in and of themselves.
And the source material for this actually points right to the Catechism of the Catholic Church for guidance. And these specific sections, man, they explicitly warn against anything that falls into superstition. And what's that? Well, it's defined as any practice that tries to control or tap into hidden powers outside of the ways God has revealed himself.
So here's the bottom line, the really crucial distinction. The problem isn't the numbers 6 and 7. From a Catholic perspective, numbers are just numbers. They're neutral, part of God's created order. The concern kicks in when they stop being just numbers and instead get used as a ritual tool. Like a key, a key to try and reach unseen powers that exist outside of God's revelation.
Now, the source adds another layer here, and it's a serious one. It brings up the perspective of Catholic exorcists, and it says that these priests often report that when people dabble in these kinds of rituals, even if it's totally innocent or they don't know what they're doing, it can sometimes lead to some real-world negative effects, things like anxiety, fear, and other kinds of disturbances.
Okay, so given all that, the source is definitely not calling for panic, not at all. Instead, it frames this whole thing as a teachable moment, and it offers a really practical, faith-based way to respond.
The advice is actually broken down into 3 pretty clear steps. Okay, step 1, don't overreact. Super important. Remember, for most kids, this is just a silly meme. Step 2, use it as a teaching moment. This is a perfect chance to explain that, hey, symbols and words can have real power, and to chat about the difference between genuine faith and superstition. And finally, step 3, bring it into the light. If you come across these kinds of mixed spiritual themes, don't just ignore them. Talk about them openly, and maybe even pray together. And then the source gives a really simple rule of thumb for this kind of stuff, a clear guideline you can use for pretty much any cultural trend. Just ask yourself, does this glorify God? And if the answer is no, or even if it's just confusing, the advice is simple. Just leave it behind. Let it go.
And, as a kind of spiritual prescription, a way to stay grounded and protected from confusion, the source points back to core Catholic practices. Things like staying close to the sacraments, confession and the Eucharist, praying the Rosary, and asking St. Michael the Archangel for defense when things feel confusing.
Ultimately, the whole point of this caution isn't about fear. It's about faith. The source really brings this home with a verse from Psalm 27, which reminds us that the real source of our peace and security isn't about dodging every weird cultural trend, but about placing our trust in God.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating final thought, doesn't it? I mean, this whole 6-7 thing is just one example. But once you start looking for it, you see these kinds of collisions between the sacred and the trivial everywhere. Ancient symbols popping up in company logos, spiritual ideas woven into pop songs, sacred geometry and fashion. It really makes you wonder what other hidden histories are hiding out there, right in plain sight.